Good evening. My name is Sam Vincent, and I'm going to be presenting to you on why freedom of expression is important and why we need it in society. First off, what is meant by freedom of expression? Well, freedom of expression is just a broader name for freedom of speech, freedom of the press, right to assembly, and right to petition the government. Now, basically, this just means you have the right to what you want to say without conviction. However, there are some limitations on what you can say. For instance, if you're going to be making a speech about someone that's meant to hurt them or smear them, if you don't have proof to back this up, or if it's just a lie, that speech would not be protected under freedom of expression, and it's actually illegal. And freedom of expression became part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, written by the United Nations. My sources for this information was from Cornell Law. And so what makes freedom of expression important? Well, freedom of expression will make individuals feel more secure and respected by their government. And it also allows for exchange of ideas and information freely between people. This can be important because when we have an exchanging of ideas, we can grow as a society. And it also contributes to a better quality of government because this allows the people to tell what the government they do and do not like and what they do and do not want. And it also promotes other human rights, such as the right to not be discriminated against because of the color of your skin, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, or your nationality. The ways you can use freedom of expression to do this is you can petition or speak out against acts such as these. I got this information from Article 19. Now, there are other instances in countries where they don't have freedom of expression, or what they can say is very limited. And this video I'm about to show you is from Egypt during a trial of journalists in Egypt and a journalist from Australia who were accused of helping a terrorist group even though there was no circumstantial evidence. And you're about to see what happens to them. The judge has just gotten back from discussing the verdict of the trial. Now he's reading out the names of those on trial.
أحمد نصر غراب وصهيب سعد محمد محمود خالد محمد عبد الرؤوف محمد شادي عبد الحميد عبد العظيم إبراهيم بيتر جريس بالسجن المشدد لمدة 7 سنين.
The judge just read off the verdict that each of the journalists will face a jail time of 7 years, maximum. And the man you just saw was speaking of how this trial is corrupt and it needs to be fixed.
To hear his reasons for giving that verdict doesn't make any sense.
These are the parents of the journalist from Australia just learning of what his sentence has been.
I think, what did she say?
No, let's hear now.
I think regardless, they get a bigger sentence than...
When they're away, when they're outside.
Yeah. 7 years for Peter Gresta, Repent for Hers, and 5 other 6 defendants present. My God.
Oh.
My God.
Oh,
sorry.
That's crazy.
Finish.
That's crazy.
The Australian government is shocked at the verdict in the Peter Gresta case. We are deeply dismayed by the fact that a sentence has been imposed, and we are appalled by the severity of it. Peter Greste is a well-respected Australian journalist. He was in Egypt to report on the political situation. He was not there to support the Muslim Brotherhood. Freedom and freedom of the press is fundamental to a democracy, and we are deeply concerned that this verdict is part of a broader attempt to muzzle the media freedom that upholds democracies around the world.
I was about to tell the judge, if you want free press in the new democracy, let the
The men speaking in these cages are the ones I'm shot. You can see how different. These are protesters outside of the Egyptian courtroom protesting on the verdict. Now there are instances in other countries, like I said, besides Egypt, that have little to no freedom of expression and are lacking in other human rights. And countries like this are North Korea, Eritrea, Syria, and China. These are some of the lowest ranking countries in the world that have for freedom of expression or other basic human rights. And defying the government can result in imprisonment and even death in countries such as North Korea and Eritrea, which are two of the lowest ranking countries in the world for freedom of expression and other human rights. My source for this was the American Civil Liberties Union. Are there any downsides to freedom of expression? If left unchecked, things can take a turn for the worst. Now, what I mean by this is people can abuse freedom of expression to make speeches with malicious intent, such as starting riots or making large groups of people believe something that's bad or negative. These 5 points right here were developed by Sarah Benish to be used to determine if a speech has malicious intent or not. Point number 1 is a powerful speaker with a high degree of influence over the audience. This has to be looked out for because a speaker who has a high degree of influence could be a government official, a religious person with high authority, or anyone else. And they can use their power and authority negatively to affect what they want. Now, number 2 is the audiences has grievances and fears that the speaker can cultivate. And it's been known that people, like large groups of people who are in a frightened state or shocked state or just agitated, are more likely to be susceptible to speeches and be controlled by someone who knows the right words to say and use. And number 3 is a speech act that is clearly understood as to call to violence. Now this is more easily to see as if, for instance, if a speech was to include something that said, we need to fight against this certain group of people, that's obviously a call to violence. Number 4 is social or historical context that is propitious for violence for any of a variety of reasons, including long-standing competition between groups for resources, lack of efforts to solve grievances, and previous episodes of violence. A good example of this would be the recent events between Pakistan and Islam, and how they were at war with each other, and there's countless deaths and other tragedies that befell them. And this is most likely due to the cause of higher up figures speaking negatively about that other group of people. Number 5 is a means of dissemination that is influential in itself, for example, because it is the sole or primary source of news for the relevant audience. This can be dangerous because if a country only has one main news broadcasting system, and that broadcasting system is under control by, say, government officials, the government can show its people what they want to, basically controlling them and what they see in the outside world. So, in conclusion, freedom of expression plays an important role in communities, countries, and the world. Because with freedom of expression, we can distribute knowledge to everyone and grow and understand each other to hopefully end fighting and other conflicts. And it sets a path for other human rights, because with freedom of expression, people can speak out against oppressing powers or oppressing governments, and then hopefully have those governments change the way they run things to give its citizens basic human rights. We still need to push for it so that it's a worldwide right, because as shown earlier, countries such as Egypt, North Korea, China, Syria, and Eritrea don't have any freedom of expression. Now, we also need to watch to make sure people don't abuse freedom of expression and to manipulate people how they want. These are my sources for information, and thank you.